Hey guys, it's McKay's here back with another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at how we can pose the light side Anakin Skywalker figure in a few different ways. And we're also going to be debuting another series on my channel. So let's just jump right into that. So like I said, we're going to be debuting a new series on the channel, which I'm calling Feel the Force Fridays. Now, essentially what this is going to be is a day dedicated to talking about Star Wars. Whether it's a posing video like today or potential figures coming soon. Maybe even a discussion on like shows like The Mandalorian, which is currently going on, or other stuff. Regardless, it's going to be always Star Wars themed on Fridays if I post a video. Now, as I said, this week is going to be a posing video on Anakin from Hot Toys, and this is going to be the light side version. First off, I want to show you what I usually see when I see this figure posed. And I usually see him just like this, with just a lightsaber thrown into his hand and no other manipulations or anything done to the figure to really add anything. And I'm gonna just go over like a few different ways to make it look a lot more natural. Now, just by moving the lightsaber arm down as I just did improves the pose a lot compared to how it was. Now, a common reason that a lot of poses don't look as natural as they could is because of the arm that doesn't actually have the lightsaber. So in this case, it was just out, not really doing anything, and it looked like it was just taken like right out of the box and just plopped into a display. What we're gonna do is lower that arm and pull it slightly back and closer to his side, and this is a much more natural, relaxed, and human pose. And that's mostly because usually when you're standing, your arm is usually by your side and just hanging there. It's not out, like outstretched how it was, unless you're doing something active, which in this case, Anakin isn't really doing. Now, just by doing those two movements that I did, it already looks a lot better than it did before. Even lifting the arm up like he's about to challenge someone or he's getting ready for a fight, looks a lot better when it's sitting in your display than just having him just kind of standing there. If you have his arm out like I have in the video here, it'd be best to probably start moving the torso and twisting it just a little bit along with his head, just so it looks a little bit more like a fighting stance. You could also swap out one of his hands. In this case, I decided to go with the force pull kind of hand just to see if it would work with the pose I'm going for. I did have mine posed like that for a time in my collection, but sometimes I just like it better just on the side. You can switch it out for a fist if you want. Makes it look a little bit more aggressive. Also, you can leave the legs and feet how they are, but usually when you're standing to the side and your torso and your head are turned, your feet aren't going to be facing a complete opposite direction. So what you're going to want to do is take that front foot and make sure it's facing the same direction as the head, or at least slightly turn it so it's facing in that general direction, and it's going to look a lot more natural and more realistic for you. Here I'm just making slightly more micro adjustments here and there. I tilted the head down just a little bit, and as I always say in most of my posing videos, it's all really about micro adjustments. You can start messing around with even more poses. If you want to have the lightsaber arm up like how it initially was, you can do something like what I'm doing now. All you have to do is swap out the hand for the one that grabs the lightsaber, and you can attach those fairly easily. Now, what you don't want to do with this specific pose, you don't want to have his head lined up pretty much with his shoulder, because that just looks kind of awkward. If you ever see a picture of Anakin in this specific stance, or really if you just do it yourself, you're never going to be completely turned and in line with your shoulder. You want to have it a little bit off-centered from your shoulder, as I'm showing here, and it's going to look a little bit more realistic. And you want to make sure that when you're swapping out the hands and going for different poses, you also adjust the rest of the body. A lot of times I feel like what people do is they'll take the lightsaber out of his hand, switch out the other arm for another hand, and then just don't really manipulate it at all. There are poses that are you can swap out just a hand and it'll look pretty good without making any major adjustments, but in most cases you're gonna have to mess around with each pose that you do, with each little thing that you change. So you want to make sure you're constantly doing that and you're not just getting lazy with the poses. In this case, I removed the actual lightsaber blade and just have the hilt. Usually what I see is people just have him with his arms out again, just like this. Something about it just looks off. So usually when he has just the lightsaber hilt, he'll have it off to the side, almost pointing at the ground, and his arm is pretty close to his side, but not super close. You can still see a lot of space in between his arm and his side. So like I said, it's all about making small little adjustments here and there. Regardless if you're going for a completely different pose or you're just swapping out one or two things, you're always going to want to keep making those small adjustments to make sure that you're getting the actual pose that you want and as accurate as you want it. The next pose here, I feel like, is a pretty classic Anakin pose. It goes really well with his actual fighting stance. And it's one that you can use if you're trying to replicate him, like deflecting blaster bolts or anything like that. It is a bit tricky to get. You just have to be really patient with it. I don't know how long I spent trying to get this pose, but even in the end, I didn't get it completely accurate because the arms only go up so high above his shoulders. But there's a little bit of a cheat that you can do here. We'll get to that in just a second. I just want to point out, yes, my figure is kind of falling apart here at the legs, and that's just because of how much I pose him. Or I don't know, I've actually had this figure for quite a while, so maybe it's just getting old. I did manage to fix that strap after recording this footage, so everything's all good. But yeah, right now, as I said, I couldn't get it completely accurate, and it's because the arms don't go above the shoulders as high as I want them. But all you really have to do is pose them in a way where that back arm isn't even visible. So as you can see here, the arm that I use doesn't reach all the way, but I just made it look like it's almost grabbing the lightsaber hilt, but it's really just resting on the back of his neck and the back of his head. Depending on the way you have him posed in your display, you can hide this fairly well, and it ends up being a really cool looking pose in your display. You just want to make sure that because of that restriction on the arms and the shoulders, you have him posed in this exact angle or something like that of the sort. That way you can kind of fake it a bit. I like to think of this one as a more reflective Anakin, kind of looking at his robotic hand, really being pensive about his past and everything like that. This is a pose I usually go with if I have just done like a posing video or posing session with him and I don't want to go through like the trouble of coming up with a new pose. I just kind of stick him in my display like this, and it's good enough until I actually have the time to go pose him again. But it's a fairly easy pose to pull off. You just want to make sure that, as everything we talked about before, you're adjusting the torso just a bit. Just line up the eyes on the actual head sculpt to the actual hand, and it's going to look a lot more accurate, and it won't look like he's looking past his hand or anything like that. Now we're going to take a second and just let Milo do his thing here. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you. All right. So the next pose we have here is a lot more reminiscent, or I actually got the idea from the Battlefront 2 stances or poses that they have for the end of the game once your team wins or loses. If you were using this character, there's different stances that you can pick from, and this is a really cool Anakin stance. I feel it's usually the one I have equipped on my guy. This pose is a little bit tricky to get, mostly because of the lower half of his body. The pants can only go so far, so you have to do a lot of movement and manipulation of the ankles and the boots, and because of the way the boots are made, you're gonna get some weird creases, and the figure alone, it's already a difficult figure to balance. It's gonna take a little while for you to actually even get the balance part done. See, this is what you deal with when you have a cat and you're trying to do anything productive. But we're just gonna ignore that for a second. It doesn't really matter at this point. Yeah, but you're gonna wanna make sure you got the balance right. Of course, the strap is still messed up on this one, but the ankles, you want to make sure all you have to do really to get that pose, because you can't extend the legs any further than I have them here without ripping the pants. So you want to make sure that front foot, the ankle is bent as I have it in the video. It's not really like a 45-degree angle. It's say more of like a 20 or 30-degree angle. I'm not really sure. But yeah, you want to do that first. And then the back foot is practically flat, but you want to bend the back leg at the knee. And even though you're bending the back leg at the knee, the front leg is going to be primarily mostly straight. The only bend you're going to have on the front leg is the ankle. Now we're going to go up to the actual hand. Again, this is one of those things where a normal human body can do it, but because it's a figure, you can't really move that front arm all the way across the body like that to actually be able to grab the lightsaber. So what I ended up doing is using this hand that you see here and kind of making it look like he's mostly guarding the bottom of the lightsaber, and he's really only holding it with that top hand. And I found that this actually works pretty well. You don't really notice it in the display, but you still get the pose that you end up wanting, which is the one we showed in the beginning of the video. This is one of my favorite poses that I have for Anakin. I would love to leave him like this, over time, but because of the bend at the ankle, I don't really feel comfortable leaving him in this pose for that long. So I end up just going with a more relaxed pose. But regardless, this is still a really cool pose. It just takes some time to get. Now, I don't really need to tell you where this pose is from, but I will say that it's easy to get wrong. You're going to want to make sure that the elbows aren't bent at like a 90-degree angle and they're not too rigid. But you want to make it a little bit more relaxed at the shoulders and at the elbows, and it makes this pose look a lot more accurate. This is another pose that was inspired by me playing Battlefront 2. Anakin has a move where he pretty much is called the Force Pull. And this is where I got that from. The hand is really good for conveying that action, even if he's just standing as he is here. This is more of a pose that is reminiscent of like a Jedi Knight, kind of him and Obi-Wan back to back, getting ready for, a fight with some droids or anything like that. Really a simple pose again. Same tips from before for grabbing the lightsaber with two hands. And then you just put the robe on and you have your pose right there. This next pose would work a lot better with the dark side Anakin head sculpt, but you could still do it with this head sculpt as well. And this is when he's in Mustafar, kind of definitely looking really conflicted. And I won't give too many tips on it because I'm not very good myself. You're definitely going to want to mess around with the robe a lot because in my opinion that can make or break a pose like this. And in my case, I don't really think I did that well of a job. But again, I'm just giving you guys some ideas of different poses you can do, and you can definitely improve on them. I'm not in any way saying I'm the best or anything like that. I just want to give people some ideas to improve their posing. And then going along with the theme here, this is another Revenge of the Sith inspired pose. It's from this scene here.
What have I done?
This is a pose that really conveys pretty much everything he's feeling at that moment. So I really like it. And you can even do it without the robe and it still looks pretty good. This is a very somber kind of pose if you want to go with that in your display. Myself, I always like setting up scenes and, trying to convey their emotions or feelings through my poses. So this is a pose that I would have in my display depending on the setup I was going with at the time. But everybody's different. I'm just here to give you guys some ideas of what you can do. And this last pose here is probably my favorite that I've done with Anakin so far. It's a very action-like pose. And because of the materials used in the suit, it's easier to pull off than you would think. I won't go over it too much on how to really do it, but you can pause the video at different moments just to kind of replicate each section of his body if you like this pose. But yeah, this one really gives off like a jumping into battle, getting ready. But yeah, this is one of my favorite poses that I've done with him. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you guys leave a like and comment down below which was your favorite pose if you had any in this video. And let me know what you think of the new series that I'm starting on Fridays. I should also mention that due to my schedule and a little bit of what I talked about last week, I'm gonna try to post every week at least one video. So the series that are coming up, you know, the two that I've already mentioned, those series aren't gonna be coming every week. So one week it might be, you know, Feel the Force Friday. One week it might be What Do You Want Wednesday. So depending on the week, you're gonna get a different video. And I'm mostly doing that just to space things out for myself so I don't feel overwhelmed right now. I do, like I said before, I do like making videos. I don't want to commit to 3 videos a week and then not be able to actually make those. So just so you guys know, it's going to be at least 1 video a week. It might vary week to week. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought about this series, this video. The next video should be coming to you guys on Monday if I can get that video out in time. But other than that, stay safe out there, guys, and I'll catch you next time.